going on, everybody? AJ Capasso here, host of Talking with the Source. I'm here with my good friend today,
Robin from Hafren Paranormal, or in AJ's case, it's Robin from Hafren Paranormal and Talking with the Source. And you can also find AJ on Craigslist.
Anyway, and it begins, I should say, people. Anyway, we have some great stuff coming up today. We have an awesome guest. I'm looking forward to speaking with him and everything. We got to speak a little bit in the back, but first,
AJ, sorry, did you get that job?
What
the
job?
One in Wayne's World that you were going for?
No, I didn't get the Wayne's World job. I'm sorry.
All right, okay.
Sorry, but anyway, we want to give a huge thank you to Brian Laverty, Lex, everybody in the admin team over at Global Ghost Hunt. We had a great first event in May. We have an event coming up also in October for this year. So hurry up, register your team. Slots are open, so go to www.globalghosthunt.com. But other than that, right now, I want to introduce great friend of ours. His name is Jude Fox. He is a producer, actor, and editor, and he's known for Interpersonal 2014, The Ungovernable Force 2015, and The Final Stage 2016. Let's bring him on right now. Jude, how are you, my friend?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm wonderful. It's great to be on, guys.
And please tell me I did not mess that intro up for you.
Only slightly, but we'll get over it. We'll get over it.
That doesn't surprise me.
No, not at all. With me working something, I tell you can't leave me in charge of anything. You just can't.
Oh, God, the cap's on now. We're in trouble.
That's it. The cap had to go on. You know, they say I look like Kevin Smith when my hair's out back like down, so I get all my customers that say that. I don't know why.
Little bit there.
Yeah. There you go. Thanks.
Now I feel left out. I didn't bring a cap. Damn it.
Oh, see? That's right. Next time.
You should have prepped me with it. You should have prepped me.
AJ needs one of them ones that has the veil that comes down here as well to stop you from actually seeing them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I definitely do. But Jude, I want to ask you. So, what made you get into filmmaking in general? How did you get into it, and all this stuff?
My goodness. All right. Well, going all the way back, I guess. When I was a little kid, I used to watch stuff. I used to see things like Godzilla movies, and I was probably around 4 years old when I decided to make my own with a Super 8 camera and a bunch of toys. And my God, it must have been awful. But that was my first foray into it nonetheless, and I've kind of had a love ever since. When I got older, I got more into visual art. I took illustration. I went to college for graphic design. And after all that, I decided I really wanted to pursue filmmaking, which was something that I had always been interested in, and went back to school for that. And here we are.
That is awesome. That is absolutely awesome. If you don't mind me asking, whereabouts did you go to school for learning film?
Well, I went to a little multimedia school, which is now debunked, or not debunked, defunct. Yeah, it's not here anymore. But that was in Manhattan, and I've always been a New York-based kind of guy, at least most of my life. I was born here, raised, spent most of my days, kind of like Will Smith in Philly, but we don't talk about him.
Yeah, right. Unless we want to get slapped, we don't talk about him.
I'll talk about his wife, but it just depends on where you want to go with it.
Yeah.
Well, I can't because I'm over the water. He's got to come the whole way over here to get me. So I'll talk trash on, you know what I mean?
There you go.
So, just before we go, hello to Joshua Dixon.
Sorry, go ahead. What you were saying, Jude? Apologies.
No. I said I'm a little bit bigger of a guy, I think, than Chris Rock. So, I'm not really scared.
Yeah, there you go.
Let him come after me.
Poor Chris Rock, though, right?
Yeah,
what are you going to do? But what I wanted to ask you was, what was one of your most significant film that you did make, say in the beginning?
All right. Well, it's kind of difficult because most of my films that I've been involved with are still pretty underground, pretty independent. Yeah. There's quite a few direct-to-video, direct-to-DVD kind of things. I worked on a documentary. I would say when you're talking my most significant, I did a short documentary with a good friend of mine who's passed away called Heaven Sent, and that was about the LGBTQ and lesbian community in Chelsea, and about we followed some girls around from that, and that did pretty well at some of the festivals, and that still holds a big place in my heart, both for the message and for my filmmaker friend Gucci Man, who is no longer with us.
Sorry to hear. Sorry
No.
about his passing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Rob.
But you know, and I've pretty much I've done quite a few different genres at this point.
Awesome.
You know, and I think my main thing right now is looking to go from that smaller level of more production to really both producing as well as writing and directing a feature of my own, which is really where I'm focused on getting to right now.
Awesome. I can't wait to check it out. That's going to be something great down the road to check out for sure. So everybody watching, for sure, check it out.
Absolutely.
But I was going to go ahead, Robin. I'll let you ask. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to start off by saying hello to Joshua Dixon that's watching, and hello to Stacey Reed from Beyond the Walls Paranormal.
Hey, Josh.
Just want to ask you, Jude, really how you managed to get into the paranormal. And obviously you're not like in the paranormal like we are, but you've got a certain interest, you would say, in the paranormal. And how does that go along with your filmmaking and stuff like that?
So I think my interest in the paranormal is definitely interesting, and will be interesting probably for you guys to understand, because I'm definitely coming at things probably from a slightly different perspective, and that is that most of my life I've considered myself an agnostic atheist as well as a skeptic. I'm very hard to convince of things. That being said, I'm always fascinated by what might be out there and looking for things. Once again, that would be the agnosticism within me. That is a lack of knowledge. And I've definitely experienced a few things which, even with a relatively scientific thinking brain and a logical sensibility, that I can't explain. I had lived in a house for maybe about a year, which I experienced a lot of things that the best explanations I could come up with could not answer to my liking. Just things such as I would put a coffee cup down, and it was a large house. I lived alone. So I would put a coffee cup down in the kitchen and, walk to the bathroom and come back and just not be able to find it. And maybe a week later, I would find it in an empty bedroom on a shelf somewhere. Or I had things just fall off of shelves while I was standing there a few times. And, I would check it, and I'm like, well, maybe there's seismic activity. You never know. This house is on Long Island, and we have a little bit. But no, there was no sign of that. I would hear scratching that I couldn't explain, noises, which, again, there may be explanations. I'm not saying there's not. I'm not saying there is. I just don't know what it is. And it's kind of kept me open-minded. And then the strangest part of living in that location was a small crawl space in the back of the basement under a extended part of the house, where when I moved in, it was just flat. In fact, whoever was there before had put like garbage, pretty much, like an old Christmas tree and things like that. It like shoved it into the crawl space, and I'm like, well, I'm not crawling back there getting it out. And over the course of a few months, maybe, and over the year, the floor had begun to dip down there to the point where there was a hole which I couldn't see down anymore.
Wow.
And I would always get a weird feeling over there and never actually explored it. Because, I kind of lifted myself up a couple times to look in, and I'm like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
I'm getting a bad feeling.
Yeah.
And I had a couple
I'll
other
leave that
friends.
one alone.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had a couple other friends. You know, a good friend of mine, who's like my little sister. She came over once, and she's like, "Oh, I'm not scared of anything. I'll go look." You know, I'm like, "All right." So I picked her up by one hand, you know, one arm, and started, you know, holding her up into it. And she got about halfway, and she pushed back. She just scurried back. She's like, "Nope, nope." She's like, she's like, "No, there's something that feels weird."
Wow.
So, you know, like that, living there definitely made me say, well, there might be more to the world than I can explain. Doesn't mean I know what the explanation is or the
Yeah.
reason or the answer, but I'm open-minded to it. And
Yeah.
I'm always curious about finding more.
You know, it's so great that you have that outlook, though. Like, even have an agnostic outlook. I think that's so great. For me, I grew up Christian, and you know, I ended up having a near-death experience. I was a drug addict, and I overdosed 12 times. Last time I
Oh,
overdosed, I left my body. Had some things happen. Thank the Lord, I'm still here, and everything is great, and I got past that, luckily. But
excellent.
thank you. But you know, it's great to have that kind of skepticism the way that you do, because I try to tell people who are skeptical, like, I don't try to word it to them in a religious way or in a what we would call fairy tale way with angels, demons, because someone who's skeptic and agnostic is not going to even listen to that if you're trying to talk to them, because you know, they're not, unless it's something that they could relate to, they're probably not going to pay that much attention. So I try to, like, you know, talk to skeptics and stuff and try to, you know, ask them, like, do you believe in energy? Obviously, you know, scientific energy, like electromagnetic energy, all this type of stuff that we know. And I believe that there's more, and I believe that, you know, our bodies, we are all energy down to the purest molecular form, like between kinetic energy that we produce and all this thermogenic energy that we produce. And that energy has to go somewhere. So I try to put it in that type of perspective instead of putting it in like a religious perspective to see if it may help them. But in reality, you have to have your own experience to actually believe, you know, otherwise you're never really truly believe, in my opinion. But what do you think
Yeah.
about it?
I think that's a good way to put it. I definitely read a lot. I read a lot of both theological as well as occult type
Yeah.
of books, because again, it's something I've just always been fascinated with.
Yeah.
Seeing all the different sides and perspectives and the history, and an author who I happen to be very fond of is a magician. And when I use the term magician, I mean not an illusionist, but somebody who believes themselves to be, you know, a
Yeah.
practitioner of the magical arts. And he is also, I can't recall right this second if he has a PhD in it from
Mm.
like, and you know, I don't want to misquote exactly what his credential is, but I know he has a degree from an accredited school, and his name is P.I.E. Bonewaits, or Philip Isaac Edmund Bonewaits, I believe. And he had written a book on yellow magic,
Mm.
and which is essentially psychological magic. And I'd read that when I was fairly young, you know, maybe like 12.
Yeah.
And part of how he describes his concept of magic is very much in the Crowley sensibility of that any willful act is a magical act. However, he defines it a little bit more
Mm.
specifically in terms of it being something that cannot be necessarily explained through modern scientific understanding,
Yeah.
but pretty much that it does have a basis in science. We just don't understand what that is or how to necessarily control it by other means.
Yeah.
And I was always kind of fascinated by that way of looking at
Yeah.
the possibility.
Yeah. Absolutely.
When
Now,
you say, sorry, when you say, we call it Crowley something?
yeah.
Aleister Crowley, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say Aleister Crowley
Yeah.
because I'm actually going to be doing one of his houses that's over here.
Oh, nice.
So
I have a lot of mixed feelings about Crowley.
Yeah.
yeah, well,
As
we
a
have
lot of us do, probably, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Right.
we have another co-host that hosts sometimes, AJ Johnny, And she's actually coming over here because she's actually researched and studied this guy. And when I said about doing his house, it was like, I've got to do that. And a lot of people go up there and do stuff, but it's like, it's so remote. It's unbelievable. And the last time I was actually down there, it's in Cornwall. Last time I was down there looking for it, I actually got myself lost in a load of like woods and stuff. And this was like 11:30 at night. I was on my own, and I was looking for this house, and I got myself lost in these woods. And it was like you were being watched from everywhere.
Wow.
And as much as I was enjoying it in a sick way, I was enjoying it. I thought, well, if there's shit like this about, it's not the place you want to be alone.
You know what's crazy though, Jude, is that I feel like a lot of people, especially people who don't read about Aleister Crowley or look into any of this stuff, I feel a lot of people have this like weird, like they don't really quite understand what his whole thing was about. A lot of people that I talk to are like, yeah, he's into sacrificing, this and sacrificing that. And I get some of the things he did, that were questionable in that occult type area. But it's also, he was so much about the anarchy type too, So it was like a lot of people don't really look at that part. They look at the more, the hell side of it,
Like I said, I have a lot of mixed feelings about him, actually.
Yeah.
There are things that I respect and like very much, and there are things that I'm like, ooh, that's pushing it way too far, and of course, I definitely wouldn't live the way he lived, read Diary of a Drug Fiend. But, he's definitely kind of misunderstood, and he's very much responsible for a lot of that as well, though, because once his persona started to really click with the public, he delved into it. He was one of the first influencer types from that era, to use a modern term, where he just, he said, "Oh, you're gonna call me the Beast? I'll be the Beast. I'll tattoo 666 on my forehead. Here you go.
Oh, yeah.
I'll shave it. I'll do this. I'll do that. I'll present. I will live that life." And it's hard to say how much of him was genuine and how much was kind of Andy Kaufman-esque.
Yeah.
But he definitely did go to extremes. There's no question about that. Yeah. But again, just an interesting character.
Oh, totally, 100%. Robin, you have anything you want to ask, or can I keep going?
No, what I'm doing is I'm actually looking. I had a thing on here where I had 4 pictures that were taken of the house, and I was gonna send to Jude to let him see it. It's so remote, and you actually, when you read about the guy, and you think to yourself, well, I understand why that he had a house in such a remote place, because it's like
orgies. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I think I sneezed.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So AJ, just ask away while I find this.
Yeah, no problem. One thing I wanted to get into, as I already kind of did with the filmmaking type stuff, I asked you this in the back. What is one of your favorite cameras to use? Now, I know you told me the main one, but go into DSLR as well after you tell us what the one you told me in back.
Okay. Well, yeah. I would generally, given any opportunity, shoot on a red. That being said, as I was mentioning to you behind the scenes, there are plenty of DSLRs that are pretty good. A couple weeks ago, I worked on a film, a short film that we shot with a DSLR. I can't recall exactly what model we used right this second. If it clicks, I'll let you know. But more often than not, I will usually have a brief discussion with whichever cinematographer I'm working with. And I usually want my cinematographers to be comfortable with the camera we're using more than I'm concerned about myself. I tend to look for a certain level, whether I'm a producer or a director on it. And I prefer directing than producing, although I end up producing more than I direct. however, whichever role I'm in, it's really just a tool to me to get the best shots we can get.
Yeah.
Not necessarily something that I will get into the nitty gritty of as much.
Yeah.
But I will go over it and make sure to review it and have an understanding of whatever it is we're using at the time.
Now, I could picture you on set, and I could picture you like running around doing all the jobs, because I could just picture you being like me, like a perfectionist. Like, no, this person isn't going to do it the way that I want it done, and I have to do it this way. I just picture that in you, my friend. I don't know why.
It depends on the set. It depends on the set. If on a good set, to be honest, if everybody is doing their job and knows their job, there's always a little bit of that. But for the most part, you'll be like, all right, I know, my lighting crew can do this, my camera crew can do that, my grips are capable of moving all this stuff where it needs to be. I just have to do whatever it is my role is on that. Whether I'm producing, whether I'm directing, whether I'm doing a combination of it, whether I've done like AC on certain things, or AD on certain things. Like if I'm an AD, I'm there, I'm looking at the schedule, I'm keeping everything on track. I'm telling the director, hey, we got to move it along. Lunch is coming up, and we gotta have the next crew reset the scene for this. So it really just depends on keeping focus on whatever it is.
No, definitely.
Right.
Absolutely.
I've sent you both those photographs of Alistair Crowley's house.
All right. Yeah, I'll check them after. I can't check it right at the moment, but yeah.
Yeah, I've got my equipment off right now. But
no,
cool.
That's absolutely great. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, have you with you being like, you obviously edit your stuff, correct? Obviously.
It depends on what it is. Again,
Okay.
I once again, I probably fall into editing more than I really would like to.
Yeah.
Just out of necessity. But
Yep.
but when I edit, ask away.
No, yeah.
What
The reason what I was
yeah.
going to say is I could see, as being a skeptic in the paranormal, with the paranormal, being a filmmaker, knowing what you can do nowadays with film, or I mean, with the camera, and with editing, does that play a big role in you feeling as a skeptic too?
I think it, as a filmmaker, if I'm watching a lot of things, like a number of shows, particularly ones that are on the Sci-Fi Channel and a few others that I've checked out. A lot of times, if you know what to look for, you will see tricks that are being used to keep things more interesting, and you go, oh wait, this shot that they're cutting to was clearly done at a different time than this other shot, and they're making it look like it's part of the same scene. So there's a lot of that clearly happens. I guess, yeah, I definitely can't disassociate from that. So I do look for it, and when I find it, that's when I go, all right, I might tune out of this particular show. But if I'm not finding that, then that's when I'm more interested.
You're muted, AJ, which is sometimes better.
Yeah, well, sometimes better. What I was going to say though is for Robin, for example, when he goes out and he shoots one consecutive shot to keep it raw, so that the audience will obviously do that. But what I've noticed too is it gets kind of boring almost, because you're not having those shots. So, but then you're stuck between that thing, like we were just talking about, like, well, if you're doing jump cuts or something, is that messing? Are you tricking people? So it's such a hard field to like try and show the proof.
You're definitely damned if you do, damned if you don't, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
What I would recommend to someone would probably be something more to the effect of I would always use multiple cameras if I'm doing that kind of a shoot. I would still use multiple cameras. However, if something interesting is happening, something that maybe means something, I would make sure in the edit that we keep a long take for that, and we never cut away from it. And then if you get an event of some variety on multiple angles, I would then go back and show the entire thing from multiple angles afterwards. But I would make sure to present my audience with a full, long take of that. And when I say a long take, that could be, 10 seconds before the event and 10 seconds after it. So you might have a 25-second, or 20-second roughly bit, because something could be quick. So, so it's not going to be, 5 minutes or 3 minutes or 2 minutes even, it might be 20 seconds, which is a long take when you're watching something. It's a long shot rather. But I would definitely show it in that way so that somebody like me watching, or, somebody else that is skeptical in any sense, whether they're a skeptic or just, looking closely, that is still a form of skepticism, will not be able to pick it apart like that.
I totally, completely understand. That's awesome. That's a great way of going about it. Go ahead, Robin.
No, I was just going to say quickly, Charles Rudd asked, was that the house that Black Sabbath bought? As far as I know, it wasn't. Aleister Crowley had 2 houses in the UK. He had one in the north of Scotland, which I think is the one Black Sabbath bought. The one in the south of England in Cornwall is quite a small farmhouse. As far as I know, there was the last people who lived in it was an old couple, but it's fallen apart now. The one in Scotland, I think, is still pretty intact. So I think it's that one. And hello to Mark Lee. We'll see him later on.
Definitely. So
but I was going to say to Jude that AJ used to call me a bitch. Well, he still does, but he used to call me a bitch for not editing my material. But what I found was I used to leave all my stuff raw from start to finish, and I attempted one time to edit one of my videos, and some of my subscribers actually messaged me and went, "No, we like yours raw. We like yours left from start to finish, and left raw from the get go." So that's why I was leaving mine raw.
Okay.
Start with, but like you say, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, because you get people who say, "Well, I don't like it like that," and then other ones who they think that you're just faking stuff if you're cutting bits out and things. So,
well, so the way I would look at it is that, first of all, a couple of opinions mean very little.
Yeah.
You'll always get dissenting opinions, no matter what it is. It doesn't matter how great a shoot is, a YouTube video, a TV show, or a film. Take something like Titanic. I can't stand fucking Titanic, and it's a brilliant film, but I can't watch the bloody thing. So there's always going to be dissenting opinions. I'm not saying it's bad, but I can't watch
what's it about?
So so don't pay too much attention to a few opinions. If there's a mass consensus, that's different. If there's somebody that you trust as a critic, that's different. Like when I write a screenplay, I'll send it to a few people for feedback before I rewrite it, because I'll always rewrite it a few times before I actually show it to most people. And like I have a few trusted people, and even them, they'll give me notes, and I'll go, "Oh, okay, I see this, I agree with it," or you know what, I see what they're saying, but I don't agree with that, and I'm going to leave it how I'm going to leave it because it's mine.
Yeah.
And so you really have to have a vision of what it is you want going in, and then take those opinions for what they're worth and figure out for yourself what makes sense to take to heart and what makes sense to just, push aside and be like, "Look, I respect it, but no."
Definitely. No, I
Absolutely.
totally agree with that, and you're absolutely right. And it's hard to not look at the comments at the same time.
Yeah.
When you put a video out on YouTube, and
Yep.
but
Mhm.
you're absolutely right. It's your material, and if you're happy with it, that's the biggest main part.
Yeah.
So I totally understand that.
I had done a podcast as well a few months ago, and we got some mixed opinions, but you know, we kind of went with what I just said in terms of taking some to heart, and when we got mass feedback saying, hey, you're making too many sexual jokes here about
Yeah.
the dwarfs of Moria. Uh, but it's like, okay, maybe I'll pull that back a little bit. But
Yeah.
for the most part, it's just a matter of finding that balance.
Yep. No, definitely. I think that's absolutely awesome to have that outlook, because a lot it's like I said, it's very hard to have that outlook when you put something out there and all of a sudden you get this, like, a couple people that have this bad negative outlook on your stuff, and you're like, you beat yourself up kind of a little bit. So it's great that you have the confidence, in yourself, and you're just like, you know what, screw everybody else. I have my couple people that I care about as critics. Other than that, I'm happy with my work, and that's all that matters. And I think that that's so important, and absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
because it is up to you in the end, isn't it? Really,
yeah,
because it's your, you know, you're gonna do it whatever way you want to do it. You're gonna take people's opinions on board, but like you say, that they're not the ones that are doing it. If you don't believe that I should be editing my videos, then you go make videos and do that yourself. Or if you believe that I should be editing videos, then you go make videos and you edit them. You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Well,
And leave it that way.
when it comes to the edit is really just about whether you're comfortable doing an edit. Not everyone is. Most people really aren't. A lot of people will do it, but they are deep down not comfortable doing it, even though they say they are.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of bad edits out there for all kinds of videos. So if you think someone else is better to edit your videos, by all means, I say, take a step back. Sometimes that helps.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're too close, to see what the issues may be.
Mhm.
You can't see the forest for the trees, so to speak. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely all about that.
I totally
Incidentally,
agree.
I was going to say, by the way, so if it wasn't clear, the podcast that I was on was a review show for the Amazon Prime's Rings of Power series,
Oh, okay.
the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And I, to be honest, to this day, don't care how much negative feedback I got. I think that watching Galadriel on the horse, I think she was getting something out of it she wasn't supposed to be, and I don't care what anyone says. I'm standing by that one.
AJ, you're muted again.
I'm muted again.
Yes, you are.
I
Sick
only try
man,
to
really.
You,
I try
you know
to
what?
do it in the
It's
audio.
Freudian. He believes he should be. He's just doing
You know?
it.
It's like being handcuffed to a maniac here, Jude. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know. Honestly,
I try. I try.
yeah,
What
you're very trying.
I wanted to ask you though, Jude, I
Yep.
noticed that obviously you've also acted as well.
Yep.
Tell
A
me, how
little bit.
long have you done that?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I did some stage classes when I was young. Um, I've done little bits off and on, cameos, things like that. And in terms of actual like film or stuff that you'd find on my IMDb, uh, probably since the early 2000s. I've really been trying to, be in what I can be in. I don't consider myself a lead or anything like that. I'm just happy to do little cameos and little bits and pieces, and get out there. Um, but again, if someone offers me something, I'm not one to turn down too much.
Yeah.
I'm very greedy about it. I'll be like, oh, okay, you want me to do what? Oh, okay. There's a nude scene. Oh, I don't know about that. Well, let me think
Uh,
about it.
yeah.
It's one of those.
Oh, I thought you froze for a sec. Oh, that's too funny though, man. That's great. I tell you what though, you have to get yourself out there like that, I
Yeah.
think, and I think it's important to do that. And tell me though, if there's one filmmaker that you could work with, who would it be?
Oh, one filmmaker I could work with.
You had to ask that question, AJ, didn't you?
No. It's fine. I'm fine with that. I would probably right now want to work with Robert Eggers.
Ooh, nice.
You know, I think even though I don't think his latest one, unless I'm wrong, has come out. But you know, the limited filmography he's got with The Witch and then The Lighthouse, which is just mind-blowingly amazing. You know, with just a hint of Lovecraft in it. And then The Northman blew me away, and you know, I think he really should have gotten a little more Oscar love for that one. I just think he's absolutely amazing, and I really want to see where his career goes right now. So yeah, that'd be my choice.
That is awesome.
Now I've got to ask you, Jude. Right?
Yep.
No, hold on, Robin. Take over for a sec. I have to change things because my connection's getting all screwy. So just take over for a second for me. Sorry, Jude. Give me a second.
Go ahead.
He obviously needs to change his women's underwear he's wearing, but
anyway. You know, sometimes they get messy. I don't judge.
Oh, you don't know what he's like. He's terrible for it. But
I'm just speaking from personal experience. What can I tell you? You know?
Well, yeah, you don't want to see him then. But I just want to ask you what your opinions are on a certain person. There's a certain person that I've wanted to get on this podcast, and I think today I've actually found the right page for the person. So I've messaged the person to try and find out, because I love to pick, and I'm gonna give you a clue. I love to pick his brain.
Okay.
But I'm waiting on a word back, and if I can get word back and I can get this guy on the podcast, I'd be over the moon. So, Stephen King.
Oh, I mean, Stephen King is.
Yeah, just before you go any further, if you're on the very, very off chance, Stephen King, that you're actually watching this podcast, hit me up. I need to get you on here. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, look, you know, who would not have Stephen King on if they could? He's a living legend. He is definitely an author who's both influential and someone who I've followed since I was a child. And I think his ability as a writer has increased with age exponentially. I think his later works are just so much more phenomenal than some of his earlier works, not to put anything down about some of his earlier stuff, but just his writing style and ability has just grown year after year, and he's still kicking it out. So yeah, I mean, you know, and by the way, his son Joe Hill, also really terrific, you know, and finally coming into his own.
Do you hear all that, AJ?
I did. You know what? One of my favorite directors are, man. Not to switch or what we were just talking about, Stephen King, but Scorsese. Love Scorsese movies. I don't know what it is. Him, and then who's the other one that I love too? He did the Django. Is that Scorsese as well?
Django?
Yeah, who did Django?
No, that was Tarantino.
There you go.
Unless you're thinking of the original Django. I mean, Tarantino did Django Unchained.
No, yeah, that's what I mean.
The 70s, I believe.
If you had a podcast and you had Stephen King and Quentin Tarantino on the same podcast, I think I'd come off that mind blown.
Oh yeah, are you kidding me?
I mean, you know, don't get me wrong. I mean this in the nicest possible way. I really do. But
no.
there's, you know,
no, they both put me to shame. You can say it. Go ahead. I'm fine.
No, it's not that. I'm trying to think of how I can say this without offending anybody. But I remember watching a movie one time. I can't remember which one it was, and they were talking about gadgets for satellites that can destroy things, and And I remember someone saying, normal people don't make these, because someone had said, oh, this guy's not normal. And someone's answer to that was, normal people do not make things like this. But that was in the nicest possible way. That's not calling someone like abnormal, you know what I mean?
No, well, you know what?
But it's like those two, wow.
It's very fair to say that normal people do not make great art.
Yeah.
I will say that, and I will stand by it.
Yeah. You know what? The weird kids are the best kids because they're the most creative people. I mean, I was a weird kid in school, man, and I loved it. I loved it because I was always so creative. I'm a guitarist.
What happened to you then?
Well, I'm still weird. Still weird.
Yeah, but where's
you just mentioned about him changing his underwear, so you know.
Yeah. You know, you had to tell that on air. I can't believe it. Anyway,
well,
real quick. Wait, hold on, real quick. Joshua and anyone else watching, if you would like to ask Jude a question, please put it in the comments. We'll put it up on the screen and we'll get it answered for you. But go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, AMA.
AMA, yeah.
Go ahead, AJ. I can't even look at you seriously now. Listen, I told you about wearing thongs.
Here's one promise that I will definitely make to you, Jude. If that ever happens where we have someone like Stephen King come on or some major person, you will be on as our guest host 100%.
I will be honored,
always
sir.
Have you part of it, my friend.
I'm trying with Stephen King, by the way. I'm trying.
This guy, man, lands guests that I couldn't even fathom. I don't know how he does it. When I email them, I swear to God, Jude, they don't even answer my emails. It must be his accent and him coming from the UK. They must love that shit because they hate us. I tell you, it's so sad, man. But Jude, one thing I wanted to ask you was, so what is your So this is kind of hard to say, but what is your favorite shot? It's kind of hard to say that because there's so many shots that you do in a movie or in a independent film. Yep. But say for f-stop wise, for close up, or do you like the background being shown a lot? Like, what's your favorite shot if you had one?
So I think the question that you're trying to get to is like a sort of a signature shot.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the name.
Like for example, Tarantino, one of his signature shots is that trunk shot, with the camera looking at the trunk. I mean that, or, some woman's feet. But, so let me think, what kind of a shot do I really like? You know what? Whenever I get a chance, and they're hard to work in, but I'm a big fan of something called the Zolly shot.
Okay, I've heard of it. I don't know what it is.
I'll explain what it is. One of the very famous uses for it is Spielberg uses it in Jaws when Brody is at the beach. And it's when the camera is physically pushing in, but the focus remains on the person in the foreground, or it'll remain on the background, one or the other. And what that will do when it's done correctly is it will cause the background to either appear to zoom in or zoom out.
Yep.
But the subject will stay the same size, or vice versa, where the subject will get smaller, but the background will get the background will remain the same size, and the subject will get bigger.
I know exactly. And I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's when it's done right and used sparingly. It's one of my favorite shots, and I just think it's absolutely beautiful. And when it's done wrong, it's cheesy and campy and makes it look like a B film. So it can go either way. But that's probably, if I have to pick a type of shot, that would be the one I would choose.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
What's your opinion, Jude, on movies? Now, I'm gonna give you an example here.
Okay.
This one is one of my favorite movies, but the first time I watched it, I didn't understand it one bit. But when I watched it the second time, it fell into place. Okay. And I'm talking about Pulp Fiction.
Mm-hmm.
So starting a movie at the end.
A movie I saw 9 times in the theater. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, but one that starts at the end and ends at the start and jumps about like that all through, and doesn't make sense at all the first time you watch it, but the second time you watch it, you're like, wow.
I mean that's really just a style of non-sequential storytelling, and although I can't think offhand, I know it's been used in literature. It's been used in plays. It's been used throughout history to tell stories. It's just more prevalent in film now. But I do like non-sequential storytelling. I haven't done a whole lot of it myself, but I can be quite fond of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very again, it's very clever if it's used properly, like you say. Like you take for instance the first Die Hard film. You couldn't start that movie with him coming out the building at the end, and then jump really.
You know what? I disagree. I think I could totally re-edit that movie and make it work like that.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Challenge accepted.
I'm not saying I have time to do that, but I think that it's possible to do that. I think trying to think of something where that would not work in. I think it works in most things. I think in comedy that can be tough because comedy relies, and not impossible still, but comedy relies on specific setup and payoff, as does drama and other things. But to land a joke, you would need to basically rearrange the way the joke is set up in order for it to land properly like that. So you couldn't although you could do it in the scripting phase, I don't think you could necessarily do like re-edit a film non-sequentially and make it work with a lot of comedies. But I think with most other genres, it could. Like, I think you could probably re-edit one of my favorite films of all time, like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which is a melodrama. But you could re-edit that, and you could make that work non-sequentially. It would be tough, but I feel you could do it. Citizen Kane is close to non-sequential. It is sequential, but it's close the way it jumps around in time. So again, you could definitely edit that, and it's actually not completely sequential because it essentially opens at the end if I'm not mistaken. So that would qualify as non-sequential. Even if it's just one scene out of sequence, it is that. It's just a matter of how far you're pushing the envelope, really.
Wow.
What about movies that are action literally the whole way through? Are they not going to be harder? Like, I'll give you an example. For instance, if you take a movie that's all about the one bit of action, Speed. So is a movie like that not going to be harder to do that with, because it's not really about, like, there's not really bits and pieces where there's nothing. It's always about the guy on the bus, for instance. You know what I mean? Is movies like that not going to be harder to...
Okay, well, part of doing non-sequential and doing it well is knowing whether it means that you're just, for example, reversing the storytelling order, which is a little different than actually jumping around back and forth. When you reverse something, like I think a movie like Speed would not work if you just reversed its sequence, if you just inverted the sequence. However, if you pulled certain pieces out of it and told it in a different order, I think it, again, potentially could work. I'm not saying it definitely would. And I think it would definitely depend on who's editing, how that works, and what have you. But I think it has the potential to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is absolutely great. I
was going to say one of a movie that I absolutely love. If you haven't seen it, or if your listeners haven't seen it, is not an easy movie to watch. But the movie Irreversible is definitely one to check out.
I'll have to check it out.
It's oh, I can't think of his name, Gasper something or other. But it has stars Monica Bellucci, and it's basically a revenge film that is told end to beginning.
Oh wow.
And it's a tough watch.
Mm.
It's considered a tough watch, in part because the soundtrack is actually designed to kind of make you sick.
Oh, okay. Hey, binaural beats.
It uses, yes.
There we go.
So it makes it, certain scenes particularly uncomfortable for the viewer, but that's part of the experience.
Yeah.
And again, it's definitely worth checking out, even if you end up not being a big fan. I recommend it as part of just film history, and even though it's not that old, it's landed a place. And when we're talking non-sequential, once again, that's not necessarily non-sequential; it's a reverse sequence, but definitely interesting film and worth checking out.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to definitely check that out because I haven't actually seen a
Yeah.
reverse. One thing I want to ask you before we go is I want to ask. Man, I just had the question in my head. Oh yeah, is there anything that you can speak about that you're working on or that we can look forward to seeing of yours coming out soon?
Well, I don't know how soon. I did just shoot a small role for an indie horror film, but once again, that's just a little bit. In terms of my own actual work, I think it plays into the whole podcast and the paranormal thing, and something you had asked me early on about how maybe my experiences and the paranormal and my interest in it influence some of my work. Yeah. And what I'm working on right now is a series of scripts, which are basically designed to be a cinematic universe, essentially. Okay. And the concept of them is they are all horror films. However, they jump genres or jump subgenres from film to film, and yet are interconnected, with characters reemerging and popping up and things like that. And the overarching mythology to that is very much Lovecraftian. So there's a heavy slant on cosmic horror and entities possibly looking to enter our universe and do wonderful things to it. No, of course they want to destroy it. Yeah. But so I'm working on that, as well as I've got a book that goes along with it, which I am finishing up a draft on right now. The second or third draft right now. Awesome. And the book is essentially the Bible of the universe. It is all of the mythology of it, from beginning of history, to end times prophecies, and it's like a full book.
That is gonna be awesome. I can't wait to check it out.
350 pages to get through of dense reading. I'm sure people are going to love that. But there's again a big influence on magic and paranormal. The other side, that story I told you about my own experiences in the house. Yeah. I've got a script based on that, which it ties into this. And yeah, that's really the project. It's kind of a big project. I'm working with a producer to try to get financing for it, and we will see how that goes. But that's awesome. That's been my big thing right now.
Cool. I totally look forward to that. I want to say thank you for coming on. I want to have you, if you wouldn't mind coming on again, I'd love to have you on again, especially after that comes out. We get that promoted for you because you're gonna be awesome.
I've had a great time. I'll be happy to be on anytime, man.
Cool.
Excellent. Cool. Not a problem.
So, But thank you so much again. Like I said, just hang around in the back if you want to talk. I don't know if you have to run or anything, but we'll talk to you in a few.
I'm here, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jude. I appreciate your time.
See you later.
Guys, take care.
All right. Wow, man. I'm so happy that Jude came on. I tell you, man, such a great guy. And I love how he jokes with us, because a lot of guests, when we joke, they get kind of like nervous, I think. But Jude was like, yep, I'm all about it. So it was
who's joking?
well, thanks.
Did you like that one about Titanic?
Yeah.
What about?
No, I want to say, Joshua, thank you so much for sticking around. And so happy you're following your dreams. Thank you so much for that. I try to tell everyone to follow their dreams, and also, I'm so happy that Jude has followed his dreams and became an independent film artist or filmmaker. I mean, and all the stuff that he's doing is absolutely amazing. So please check him out on all social media platforms to stay informed with his work. He will be back on, though. We will make sure of it, and to promote what he just talked about when it comes out and he's finished. But just want to say thank you, Joshua, for sticking around, and anyone else who's watching today. You've watched another episode of Talking with the Source. So just want to say thank you guys for sticking around.
See you later.
But, hold on one second. If I can, there we go. Ha! Goodbye.